So I'm going to be recording how to express each number in terms of I. So if you have any doubt, you can go back and check the videos that I'm showing in this moment, because there's going to be an assigned activity. Okay, it says express each number in terms of I. I am going to be using this same property, guys. So I can say that the square root of -7 is the same as the square root of -1 times 7, right? Right, guys?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and I can also say that this is the square root of -1 times the square root of 7, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and what is the square root of -1?
I.
I times the square root of 7, right? So I can say, if I reorganize it according to the song we heard, the square root of 7 times I. Any questions?
No.
No? Okay, now what would
Teacher,
you do with...
yes, me.
Yes, remember
So
to raise
that,
your hands. That way I can see who's asking. Mr. Echeverri, how can I help you, buddy?
so that is the answer.
Yes, that's the
Okay.
answer. Okay, now, Simon Ramirez, the square root of -16, it's gonna be x. Mr. Obando, you have a question.
What?
No, teacher, sorry, I forgot to bajar
Lower
la
the
mano,
hand.
sorry.
Okay, no problem. Okay, Mr. Ramirez, the square root of -16 is the same as what?
The square root of -16 is going to be equal to the square root of -1 times 16.
Thank you, my friend. And let's see who I have over here in my list. Salome Soto. The square root of -1 times 16, I can reorganize it, right? And what is the answer going to be, Miss Soto?
¿Cómo así, teacher?
Sorry?
I don't understand.
Okay, look what we did over here. The square root of -17, right?
Yes.
The first thing I did, I said, okay, it's the same as -1 times 7. Mr. Ramirez said the square root of -16 is the same as the square root of -1 times 16, right? After that, we use the property. What property? Well, the property that says that the square root of A times B is the same as the square root of A times the square root of B, right? So what, if you're using this same property, Ms. Soto, what can you tell me about the square root of -1 times 16?
Square root of -1 times square root of 16.
Thank you very much. Now, thank you, Ms. Soto. Now let's move over here to Mr. Villa. Mr. Villa, if that is the question, and that's where I'm heading, this is going to be the same as what? What is the square root of -1, Mr. Villa?
I.
And Ms. Alzate, what is the square root of 16?
4.
So, Ms. Guzman, the final answer is going to be what?
The square root of 4 times I.
The square root of 4? Or 4 times I?
Wait.
Remember the commutative property.
Four times I.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Andrea Mejia. What can I do over here, Andrea?
The square root of -1 and 13.
So negative the square root of -1 times 13, right?
Yes.
And after that, what do I do? Let's look for one person here. Mateo Jaramillo. What do I do now, Mr. Jaramillo?
Hello, teacher. Sorry, se me ha trabado el mouse. Teacher, the truth, I am lost.
Okay, let's remember what Ms. Soto and what Mr. Ramirez did before. They said, teacher, the square root of -7 is the same as the square root of -1 times 7. What can I say about this? Is the first process I have over here, right? That's what Ms. Mejia said. Then, using the property, they said the square root of -1 times the square root of 7. What can I say about this part of the process?
It's the same, no.
Pues, you told me you were lost.
Yes,
So, what is the same?
Square root of -1 times
Negative times the square root of -1 times
times negative times square root of 7.
13. Yeah, excellent, Mr.
13.
Jaramillo. That's very good.
Sorry.
That's exactly what you had to do. Now, Leah, can you please tell me, if I reorganize this, what is the answer going to be? Negative times the square root of -1 is equal to what, Leah?
Teacher, wait. So we need to put like, now it will be the answer because
What is the
that's
square root of -1?
one negative.
No, you were paying attention.
Yes, teacher, I am copying the
The square root of
example.
-1 is equal to?
Teacher, entonces no sé.
Is equal to what?
I
Very good. So you're going to be having negative, the square root of -1 is I times
the square root of 13
thank
and
you.
equals square root times, no, square root of 13 times I.
Yes, and what happened with this negative?
Pues we don't put it.
Yes, you need to write it because it's outside of the parentheses. It's outside of the equation, I'm sorry.
But why? Bueno, okay.
Yes, because it was in the beginning.
Okay. Teacher,
Right.
at the end, you can, okay, now you can let us copy like the examples.
Yes, as I said before, I am recording this exercise so you can check it on YouTube.
Okay.
You upload it in YouTube.
Yes, sir. And then I will put it in bright space. All right?
Teacher, I have a question.
Yes.
Is that in the example A, you put in the square root. In the B, you don't put the square root.
Why?
And
Why
the C,
didn't?
yes.
Okay, very good question, Juanita. And I'm going to use a different color. Juanita, what is the square root of 7? Any number times itself gives you 7. No?
No.
What is the square root of 16?
4.
Do you need the square root?
But for example, we cannot like simplify more.
What do you want to
Well,
simplify?
Like the square root of 4.
Yes,
It
and
will
why
be
square root of
2.
4? I already found the square root of 16.
I am asking if we have like to simplify.
Yes, and it's a very good question, but I am giving you the question back and I'm saying, okay, why the square root of 4?
Because sometimes you say us that we have to simplify
Yes,
till
but
the end.
is this number simplified, Juanita? Or can you simplify it more?
Yes.
Yes? How?
Was the square root of 4?
Yes? So, sin salabin malacasin. An imaginary square root is going to appear here. Yes?
I don't know, maybe.
No, you already finished here when you said the square root of 16. When you found the square root of 16 and you found out it was 4, you finished and you simplified it. This is the
Okay.
maximum you can simplify.
So the square of root, well, that stays when the number don't have square root.
Yeah, like the square root of 13. Can you simplify square root of 13?
No.
Okay, so you can simplify it more.
Okay, thank you.
Right? You're very welcome. 2 more questions over here. How can I help? Let's go up. Simon, how can I help you?
Teacher, I have a question. So my question is actually really simple, but is it that if we can have a square root inside another square root?
It's a very good question, Mr. Ramirez. And yes, you can.
Okay, teacher, thank you so
And
much.
I'm going to show you how. The square root of 16.
Wait, 16?
16 and then make it a 14, yeah. Of 16. It's going to be the square root of 4. Right?
Yeah.
And what is the square root of 4?
2.
Okay?
Pretty simple. Thank you, teacher.
You're very welcome. Very good question. All right, guys, what can we do over here? Let's look for some participants. Here in my list, Mr. Agudelo, give me a hand with this exercise.
Teacher. Okay. Divide first negative square root of -1 times 64.
Thank you, Mr. Agudelo. It's not -1, it's -1, okay?
Okay, teacher.
All right, buddy, thank you very much. So I'm gonna be having negative, and now another participant over here. Let's see. Over here, I gotta move it. Susana Benitez. Ms. Benitez, I want to reorganize this exercise. And what should go next?
Negative square root of -1 times the square root of 64.
Negative times the square root of -1 times the square root of 64. Thank you, Ms. Benitez. Thank you very much. Now let's look for another participant. Mr. Gaber, what is the answer going to be? What is the square root of -1?
It is going to be the same.
What is the same?
1.
No.
Sorry, I.
I? Excellent. I times the square root of 64, which is? Which is, Mr.
Wait, teacher,
Gaber?
I am doing.
One number times itself is equal to 64. Remember, there is an important list we've talked about. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and so on. So this is going to be 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64. There you go, my friend. So what is the answer, Mr. Gaber?
8.
8, very good. And the final answer, when you reorganize all those symbols and the letter I and the number 8, Mr. Peláez, is going to be what?
Negative times 8 I times I.
Negative 8i. Very good, Mr. Peláez. Thank you very much. Now, I like exercise E. Can I have a volunteer that would like to solve it? Please raise your hand. Okay, I have some hands raised over here. Mr. Omando, how will you solve exercise E?
No, teachers, because I have a question in the D.
Oh, okay. What is your question in D? Thank you.
I understand the part that says equal times I times 8, but I don't know that how is the order for switching or organize to the answer. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This one.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you watch it, bring the question tomorrow and we can solve it, right? If you still have a question.
Yes.
All right. Now, guys, the square root of negative 48. First step, let's look for a participant over here. First step, Mr. Ramirez, how can I help you?
Is that I want to participate.
Okay, Mr. Ramirez, tell me, what is the first step?
So the first step is square root of negative 1 times 48.
Thank you very much. What's the next step?
Me or another person?
You.
Okay, me. So the second step is going to be that we divide them. So, well, not divide them. We're the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 48. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Now, what is the square root of negative 1? Miss Parra? Miss Parra? No, Miss Parra? Okay, Miss Herrera, what is the square root of negative 1?
I.
Sorry?
The square root of negative 1 is I.
Okay, thank you. And Miss Cuadrado, what is the square root of 48?
Wait, teacher, I am doing.
Because we said in this list, we talked about, where's the list? In this list, do we have a 48?
No.
No? So if we don't have a 48, what are the factors of 48 that you can find in this list, Ms. Cuadrado? What numbers from this list, when you multiply them together, will give you 48?
I don't know, teacher.
No? Ms. Fayad, what are the factors?
I think that 4 and 12.
4 and 12. Okay, Leah. Now, you said 4. Now, I will say, okay, 48 divided by 4, or 48 divided by 4 is the same. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 4 times 1, 4. Subtract 0. Pull down that 8. 4 times 2 equals 8. Right?
Yes.
So I can work with 4 and 12. Now, I have the number 4. And do I have the number 12?
Yes. But where?
In this list.
No.
No? But it's not a problem if I have a 48. And I say, well, teacher, the factors of 48 can be 4 and 12, right?
Yes.
And what are the factors of 12, Leah?
2 and 6.
4 and 3.
Why?
So I can say that 4 times 3 equals 48, right?
But wait. We cannot use 2 and 6. It needs to be like in order that less than greater.
It needs to be from this list.
Oh, no. Okay.
So 4 and 3 is equal to 48. So 4 squared times 3 equals 48. Yes? So I can say that the square root of 4 squared times 3 is the same as the square root of 48, right?
Yes.
And using the previous property, I can say that the square root of 4 squared times the square root of 3 equals the square root of 48, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
So this can cancel, and I can have 4 times the square root of 3 equals the square root of 48, right?
Okay.
Yes?
I don't know.
So if I go back, I can say that this is 4 times the square root of 3. Right?
Yes.
So if I reorganize it, I am going to say 4 times the square root of 3, and I finished.
Can you finish?
Teacher,